So for step 16, we're going to switch over to the packages page. And here we're going to use the VLOOKUP function, which is a really popular function and a good function to know and practice to be able to fill out this information up here. So maybe you want to be able to come up here and just type in a package ID, and from that you want to see the system name, display name, cost, system ID, and display ID. So the premises of a VLOOKUP is that you are looking for information in a table, and your table can be anywhere from 2 columns to more than 2 columns. This one is 4 columns, and the first column is always going to be what you're looking up. So the first column always has your lookup information. So we are going to start some VLOOKUPs using the package ID, and that is here in the first column. And so we can get, from this table, we can get the system ID by doing that. So this is going to look like this, equals VLOOKUP. And what are we looking up? We are looking up this value here. Sometimes you might be looking up a specific value that you're going to type in, a number or a word, but we are going to be looking up the value in this cell, and if this value changes, all this information will update with it. And we are looking at it in this table. And I'm not going to really be copying this function, so sometimes if you're going to copy this function, you will want your table to be using absolute cell reference. And again, actually here it's using the structured reference, the name of the table, so that's kind of like using absolute cell reference. We're not taking the headings with us, just the data. Then the next thing we're going to look up is the column index number, or I always call this, where do you want to get your answer from? So we want to know what the system ID is, and our table has 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, and the system ID is in the second column. So for this part of our function, we'll type the number 2, and then I hit another comma, and is it going to be an approximate match, which is the default, or an exact match? And in this case, it's looking an exact match, meaning that if it doesn't find P12687 in this table, it's not going to give us an answer. So there are certain cases where you might use an approximate match. You would have a range of numbers, and you would want to fill it in from there. I shared one link to a website that talks about the different types of VLOOKUPs and talks about how to use approximate matches. So we are going to choose an exact match and hit our enter key to fill in the answer. So now if I search for this package, let's see, where is it? 12687. And we can see that the system ID is indeed 4306. So this would be useful for spreadsheets that are very long and you need to pull up information. VLOOKUP is also used for combining informations from different spreadsheets. I use it to populate your grades I keep your grades on an Excel spreadsheet to populate the ABCD. So it's a very versatile function and used quite often. Okay, so let's see what else we can get from this table, the cost. So let's see what that is. Equals VLOOKUP. And again, we're still looking up this package ID number, and we are looking it up in this table here. And the cost is in 1, 2, 3, the fourth column of our table. So I'm going to type the number 4. And we need to have an exact match in order to get the correct answer. We can also get the display ID. And actually, I am going to cheat and just copy this down. Since it used package tables, I will have to change our lookup, right? Because it used relative cell reference. So I'll change that. And I'm also going to change the column index number where we get our answer from. So there we go. So instead of typing it all out, I just copied it from here and made a couple of adjustments. Now we can find the system name. So the system name is in the first column here. And let's see. I'm sorry. The system name is in the second column here, identified by the system ID. So equals VLOOKUP. And we're going to look up the system ID here. We're going to look it up in this table, right? The system ID is in the first column, so that will work. This table only has 2 columns, so the system name is in the second. Again, it needs to be an exact match, and hit enter. So how does that work? Let's say I change this package ID now to 12018. 12018, and we can see everything will automatically update because this will be based off of this. So it automatically updates. I just did an undo to put it back to the way it was. And now we just need the display name, and the display name is in a table where the display ID is in the first column. So we can use that for our lookup. Equals VLOOKUP. We're going to look up the ID. We're looking it up in this table. Again, for VLOOKUPs, we do not take the headings. This table only has 2 columns, and the answer is in our second column, an exact match. And that is one way how we use VLOOKUPs.